And finally, in the season finale, Leighton and Ruth have formed a plan to get out of the swamp, and it involves the guard who's outside. Ruth asks him for some more food, but when he sticks his hand through the little slot, they grab it. Leighton starts cutting him up, and finally Ruth just knocks him out with the shovel, and they're able to grab the keys and get out. They start trying to make their way through Big Alice to get to the engine, but it's really weird because nobody's out and about. And on their way to the engine, they just so happen to run into the brig, and they're a little surprised to see Alex there. They let Alex know that they've heard from Melanie. She's alive. They also let her know that they're planning on stealing Big Alice, and any assistance she could add would be appreciated. So she tells them that there's a secret entrance to the engine through Wilford's bedroom. She also mentions how they're crossing the Rocky Mountain test track that day, which means they're going to need both engines, which means that they're going to need Ben's help. Ruth then offers to get Alex out of there, but she says, no, Wilford wants me to kiss the ring. I can get out of here myself. So with this information, Ruth and Leighton head out, but it's not like life is going great for Wilford. Audrey is in a stupor. He looks absolutely spent. And Till isn't exactly playing the game of advisor, telling him, well, you don't listen to my advice anyway, so I'm not your advisor. Wilford gets especially on edge when he finds out from Kevin that Zara isn't accepting food. And that's a pretty big deal because Zara is the only pregnant person on Snowpiercer. Alex, however, does her part. She calls for Kevin to bring her to Wilford, and she bows down, apologizing for everything, saying that Melanie was a fool, everyone who followed her deserved what they got. And she even apologizes to LJ, who has been acting as a quasi-new Alex to Wilford. She is, however, able to whisper into Till's ear that Leighton is coming and they're seizing the train. Now, at this point, Leighton and Ruth had made their way through the bedroom to the engine, but Javi's being guarded by two brakemen. So Ruth and Leighton quietly grab some weapons from Wilford's private collection and they bum rush both of them. And Ruth pops her cherry with her first kill. They tell Javi that they got his message, but they need to get a message to Ben to make the turn on the Rocky Mountain test track. And the thing is, they don't have a lot of time because they're going to hit that track in about 2 hours. Ruth, however, gets pretty distracted when she finds Wilford's tub, and since she's been in the swamp for a while, she smells pretty bad, so Leighton and her clean up. And now that they're all clean, they decide to form a plan with Javi on what to do. The issue is, just like how Javi had people on his back, Ben has the same thing. He's got a brakeman and Sykes. So it's not like they're going to be able to just radio to him and say, hey, flip the track. But Javi figures that he'll be able to covertly get a message to Ben because they worked together for 7 years. So Javi's going to work on that, but they also need to work on getting Ruth and Leighton back to Snowpiercer. And the way they do that is to sneak Ruth and Leighton in a trunk that looks like it's destined for Wilford's carnival car. And they get through the border with absolutely no problems. And they arrive in that car where Bach, Lights, and Zerek are all waiting for him. And Bach makes a comment about how he can't believe he's actually working with the tail, but Wilford drove him to this point. Ruth and Leighton inform the group on their plans to take over the train, and they start making their way towards the engine. But they're not the only ones who are in on the coup, because as Audrey is trying to talk some sense into Zara that she needs to play Wilford's game because Wilford doesn't really need her. Wilford can have the Headwoods just take her baby from her and kill her. There's a knock at the door, and it's Till, who knocks Audrey out, and they lock up Audrey as a prisoner. The good news for the group is that Javi was able to covertly get a message to Ben, so he knows he needs to switch the test track, but he has Sykes all over him. So he tells the brakeman that he needs to get some maps, but then he bum rushes the brakeman, pushing him and then locking him out of the engine, so it's just him and Sykes in there. He also grabbed the brakeman's baton, so he thinks that he has the edge on Sykes, but Sykes is a badass who beats the crap out of him. This may have actually been Ben's plan, though, because at one point, she punches him into the computer desk and he is able to switch the track over. And when the train switches over, it throws Sykes back, and Ben is able to grab something and use it to knock her out. He chains up Sykes and then radios to Javi that it's done. They're going to pick up Melanie. A short time later, Ben receives a radio message from Leighton. Leighton's in a cold lock with Bach, and that's where they're planning on picking up Melanie. And Ben lets him know that they're about 10 minutes out. But the issue is they're on the test track, which isn't exactly a smooth ride. And the shaking of a glass piques the interest of Wilford, but Alex, knowing what's going on, says, I'll radio the engine. And when she does that, she gets Ben on the other line. She makes it sound like, though, that everything's okay, when in reality, Ben is just telling her to hold Wilford off. Now, initially, she's able to fool Wilford, but she's not able to fool LJ, who says aloud that she's seen Melanie pull that trick, radioing the engine. And that's when Wilford looks outside and notices that they are on the Rocky Mountain test track. Wilford immediately jumps into action, saying that they need to seize both engines back, and he will command from Big Alice. He also tells the brakeman to escort Alex, but as she's walking out, she grabs a razor blade and puts it in her lip, just like Wilford taught her. Wilford then sounds an alarm, which lets Leighton and his group know that now Wilford knows. And as the group is trying to hold off Wilford, Leighton looks out the window and he sees Melanie walking towards the train. Unfortunately for Layton's group, Wilford has been able to cut his way into the engine as the brakemen beat the hell out of Javi. But Javi screams, "You can't kill me, you need engineers." And Wilford knows he's right, but he also wants to punish Javi, so he has his dog attack him and not kill him. Wilford then takes control of Big Alice's engine, forcing it to speed up. And when this happens, Ben starts radioing to Javi to slow down, but Wilford lets him know, "Nah, it's me. I'm back. You can try to brake all you want, but I have more momentum." And even though Ben is trying his best to throw the brakes on, the train goes right past Melanie, which leaves Alex in the window screaming for her. Alex begs Wilford to turn the train around, saying that the people deserve to see what she found. But Wilford screams back at her that Melanie's whole shtick was a fantasy, that people can't accept the fact that he saved humanity. He saved everybody on the train. He then goes in on Alex, saying that she was nothing more than a tool, something that he collected. And she returns fire, saying that he will never be the leader that Melanie was. The conversation then gets physical, with Wilford slapping her, and that's when Alex pulls out the razor blade and cuts him pretty badly on the neck. She doesn't hit an artery, though, but she does flee. Alex makes her way through the trains, where she links up with Bach, Layton, and Ruth, because she knows that there's a way to still save Melanie. And Alex's plan involves reconnecting a couple of cars from Snowpiercer, going back, picking up Melanie, and then heading up track to reconnect. They'd be able to do this through the aquarium, which has a manual override, and if they did that, they'd have a 10-car train. And a 10-car train can outmaneuver Big Alice, because Big Alice is pretty slow. So as that group starts to go forward with this plan, Wilford had to head to the Headwoods to get patched up, and he's in a really bad mood. And Josie is watching Wilford get patched up from the second floor. At this point, Josie's kind of accepted the fact that she is the female Icy Bob. And while at first she felt violated, she wants to test herself. She wants to test the limits. But Wilford gets a glimpse of her, calling her Icy Woman, and instructs her to go outside on top of the train, make her way to the engine, break through it, freeze Ben, and reclaim Snowpiercer for Wilford. The Headwoods warn him, however, that she's not ready for that, but he screams, "Then why did we make her? Take her to the hatch and lock her outside. If she wants back in, her way back in is through the engine." So since he's the boss, the Headwoods strap up Josie and take her to the hatch. Layton, however, had headed to fill Till and Zara in on the plan, and initially they're not big fans of it, but Till is able to get on board. Zara, however, does not. She tells Layton that she's better off there with the devil that she knows than the devil that she doesn't. Besides, you're going to need me here when you come back. So they say their goodbyes, and Zara stays with Audrey, their hostage. Layton then heads up train to hold off Wilford and his men as long as he can. Breachman Bach is underneath, trying to override the system, and Ben is still running the engine, but he gets a notification that somebody opened up the hatch. And Sykes says, "Oh yeah, that must be Wilford's Icy Woman that he's been making, that former Taily, and she's coming to take the engine and kill you." But Ben is well aware of who Josie is, so he radios to her, telling her that he's working with Layton, he's running the train, and he needs her help. Layton, however, is having a tough time holding off Wilford. He's made it all the way to the aquarium, where he tells Wilford that they're going back for Melanie and Wilford ain't coming with. And that's when Till brings out the hostage, Audrey. Layton tells Wilford that she's the guarantee that Zara stays safe. But Layton is totally unaware of what's going on beneath his feet with Boki, who is run up on by a bunch of brakemen. And he's putting up a good fight, but he's way outnumbered, and he's unable to manually override the train. And Wilford knows this, so he's gloating to Layton that he was just never going to let him take the train. And when Layton tries to say that he'll kill Audrey, Wilford just laughs at him, saying that's not who you are. But that's when they hear a banging from up top, and it's Josie, who is using the tool that she was supposed to use to break the engine, but instead, she's breaking the aquarium. And she's able to puncture it, with all the water freezing up quickly and basically forming a sort of bomb. The people that were on the engine side fly back that way, and the people that were on the Big Alice side fly back that way. The whole aquarium disintegrates. And it's not pretty, but it works. The train ends up getting uncoupled. Layton's group then heads back to pick up Melanie, with Layton and Alex agreeing to go out to get her. They make it all the way to the research center, but they don't find Melanie. Instead, they find the data and the drives, and Alex finds a note from her mom. At this point, Alex is bawling her eyes out as she reads the note from Melanie, telling her that after the train went by, she knew that there was nothing left for her. She used up all the resources, she ate all the rats, and yes, she could have kept the power on for a few hours to keep herself warm, but a better idea was to keep it on a very low heat to save the drives. That way, they would have been preserved for months. She knew that when the train went by and Snowpiercer was braking and Big Alice was pushing, that Wilford had intervened. At that point, she decided to just walk out into the snow. She finishes the note by telling Alex that she is her hope and to learn to love the people that got them this far and to build a better world. So Layton and Alex return to Snowpiercer and they load up the drives, and it worked. All the research that Melanie collected is right on their computer screens, and they're able to see all the hotspots in the world that they can start to rebuild a colony. Layton, Josie, Ruth, Ben, Alex, they're all just marveling at the work that Melanie did. But that's when Layton says, all right, let's go get our train back. And that is the end of Season 2 of Snowpiercer. Man, what a season. Thank you so much for getting to the point of this video. Do me a favor, if you like what you saw, hit subscribe. If you don't, keep moving, I guess. Hit thumbs up or thumbs down if you thought this sucked. But please be nice in the comment section. You don't need to point out every little mistake you found. This video is like 4 hours long. Mistakes are going to happen. Like sending Josie out there to get the train back for you. See, that was a mistake. It happens. But just know, I really do appreciate you guys checking this video out and listen to my podcast, Scene Invaders, if you want my thoughts on actual things.